Well, I woke up this morning from a reoccurring dream.
Hello people, I'm Jaby KOAY, joined by Carolina SOFIA. We are looking at RASHMI Rocket, the official trailer, a Z5 original, premieres October 15th, only on Z5. So I know absolutely nothing about this. This was a trailer that was put in front of us by none other than Achara the Kirk. So, excited. That's all I can say.
Of course.
Excited to see what this is about. So if you guys haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, bell icon, all notifications, and vote this video up to let YouTube know you're enjoying what you're watching. Also, Carolina SOFIA would appreciate a follow on the social media. Before we jump into this, I just want to acknowledge that so far this has 88 upvotes, 18 downvotes. Relative to the upvotes, that's a significant amount of downvotes. Now, there's not that many views on this yet, but I do want to acknowledge that. I don't know what that's about. Sometimes we react to something and then people get annoyed or upset or offended, God forbid. And please, we're just going into this ignorant and curious.
आपने बहुत सर पे चढ़ा रखा है इसे, कभी मेरी नहीं सुनती।
वो खुद की सुनती है ना, वो सबसे बड़ी बात है।
मुझे थोड़ी ना बनना था एथलीट। जिस देश के लिए मेडल जीते ना, उसने एक चुटकी में इतनी जोर से गिराया कि क्रैश हो गया तेरा रॉकेट भानु बहन।
बहुत तेज दौड़ती है बचपन से।
देख जो मेरी माँ है ना, उसने पूरे गांव का ध्यान रखा हो। जब मैं प्रतियोगिता में भागने जाऊंगी ना, तो तू उसका ध्यान रखना।
क्यों पसंद है?
एक्चुअली ना मुझे बचपन से एक फौजी बॉयफ्रेंड चाहिए था, बस बात यही है।
I think we can all agree कि इसे इंडिया को
Oh no, what happened?
represent करना। all agree कि इसे इंडिया को represent करना चाहिए।
मुझे यहाँ क्यों लाया गया?
ब्लड टेस्ट लेना है रश्मि।
आप अंदर जाइए और सारे कपड़े उतार लीजिए।
सारे कपड़े।
आज नहीं तो कल इसकी सच्चाई सबके सामने आने वाली थी, क्योंकि लड़की कम लड़का ज्यादा।
What?
वैसे रश्मि के बैन का आपको फायदा हुआ होगा ना?
देश को हुआ है। At least we don't have a fraud in our team anymore.
एसोसिएशन जेंडर टेस्ट के नाम पे काफी लड़कियों की जिंदगियां बर्बाद करता है।
मैं रश्मि की तरफ से हाई कोर्ट में केस फाइल करना चाहता हूँ।
मैं नहीं चाहती कि हमारी गांव की लड़कियां इस रश्मि की तरह बने।
लड़के जैसी।
कमजोर। रश्मि वीरा ने इंडियन एथलेटिक्स एसोसिएशन के खिलाफ ह्यूमन राइट्स वायोलेशन के लिए एक पिटीशन दायर किया।
अब मैं खुद से लड़ गई हूँ, अब मैं हद से बढ़ गई हूँ, जो चाहे कर ले ज़माना, अब मैं जिद पे अड़ गई हूँ।
ये लड़ाई उन सब औरतों के लिए है जो एक बेतुके टेस्ट की वजह से अपनी जिंदगी में बहुत कुछ खो देते हैं। वो सारे एथलीट्स, इस देश की बेटियां इस कोर्ट से ये उम्मीद तो कर सकती हैं कि उनकी सुनवाई हो।
अब मैं खुद से लड़ गई हूँ, अब मैं हद से बढ़ गई हूँ, जो चाहे
ये सारे मेडल मैंने इस कंट्री के लिए जीते हैं ना, तो जस्टिस भी मुझे यही चाहिए।
अब मैं खुद से लड़ गई हूँ, अब मैं हद से बढ़ गई हूँ, जो चाहे कर ले ज़माना, अब मैं जिद पे अड़ गई हूँ।
Wow.
हार जीत तो परिणाम है।
कोशिश हमारा काम है।
That's crazy, huh?
That was powerful. I think this is such a difficult subject to give your opinions on. Everyone's experience is different, and I don't think that I'm educated enough necessarily to have an opinion.
You're allowed to have an opinion. You just have to, what do you call it? Preface it with the fact that this is not something you necessarily have experience with, but I think we all have opinions about it.
Yeah, it's just even hard to formulate for me an opinion, because where I stand is I can see the struggle of someone in this person's situation wanting to compete. I can also imagine that happening even today. Even here in the US, people saying that's not right or it shouldn't be allowed. And I think we're still going through a transformational time, and I don't really even know where to stand on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's confusing for sure. Let's walk this very, very carefully and slowly.
Yes.
First and foremost, before I dive into my feelings about any of this, I wanted to acknowledge Abhishek Banerjee, who's playing Ishit. He's the lawyer character, and he is a dope-ass actor, a dope-ass dude who had my back when I needed him. I needed help with getting a trailer reaction released once, and I'll never forget that. He's an awesome, awesome dude, and I always got to acknowledge him whenever I see him, and I always get excited when I see him. I'm like, oh, It's Abhishek. Anyway, Taapsee Pannu is also a wonderful actress. I've watched her several times. Even in a film that I didn't necessarily like, I still thought she did a good job. I'm not gonna say which one, because I don't want to start that controversy all over again, but I think she's a phenomenal actress. The story is, for obvious reasons, quite compelling, right? It's hard enough to compete in something that is a sport, a highly competitive sport. You know, everyone is training to be their best, and you're going up against all of that. That's already hard. To add on top of that, this issue with your body that you have no control over. You were born the way you're born. You don't have any say-so in that. That's just like the hand that God dealt to you. You have no control over that, right? That just compounds the complexity of this even further. To have it be this nationwide issue about what her body is versus what her skills are. I can imagine how profoundly emotionally difficult that would be, you know, to go through all that. That's horrifying, especially because you can't do anything about it. You are who you are. When they talk about transgendered athletes, I get a little bit confused because I don't know where to stand with that. If you were born as a man and then you become a woman through the operation and whatever, and then you go into a UFC fight, it's like you have what I would imagine, not being a scientist, not being a doctor, hell, not even being a real athlete, I would imagine that you have a competitive advantage of some kind. It's easier to build strength as a guy.
Yeah.
To me, Occam's razor would suggest that there has to be an advantage there. Again, not being a doctor, not being a scientist, not being a biologist, not being someone who studies DNA or anything like that. Just like at a cursory glance, it would just seem you have an advantage there, a competitive advantage that makes it unfair for you to be competing against other women if you were born a man. This is a different kind of situation, and I've heard of this kind of thing happening before. I mean, I don't know what her DNA is. I don't know how that works if she has a competitive advantage just because she has like extra parts. Like, I don't know how that informs how her body reacts to training and healing and doing that over and over again, going through that grueling process of becoming better and better. Like, how does that affect her performance? Does it give her a performance advantage? I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't studied this stuff.
It's so hard to tell too, and also it's just a tricky situation because there's also females that are born taller than me and stronger than me, and they're born that way. That's still a disadvantage on my end. Say that I'm shorter or I'm skinnier or whatever. So it's hard to tell what the line should be and where it should be drawn and what should be allowed and what shouldn't be allowed. And at the end of the day, this is also a human. And if she identifies as female, then how do you say no to her while also keeping in mind that she may be differently abled or more abled or capable than the other females competing?
With regards to what you just said, generally speaking, they try to put you in the same height weight category. They try to,
I'm an athlete, you guys. If you couldn't tell, I'm very into all this stuff.
Now, I've heard of this thing happening many times. I remember being in health class in college, and the health instructor also happened to be my gymnastics instructor, and he was talking in class about how someone who came in, a student, a little girl who came in, she had a little pee-pee thing, and they were gonna get it taken care of, get it removed, because she obviously favored being they wanted to give it some time before they decided which direction that this person would go in.
Because she had both?
She had both.
Okay.
And then they decided that she was a female, and so they're gonna get rid of the extra part.
And that could also be her case. We don't know that she's transgender. We don't know what's happening here.
Well, she's not transgendered. She was born with extra
both
parts. I mean, that's my understanding.
Okay.
What I was gonna reference though was I think that there was a story of it might have been an African athlete who just crushed it at a race. And it turned out that she was like this character right here, RASHMI Rocket, who was born with I guess both parts, and I think they took her medal away after she won first place. This is a very complicated, super gray area, and I think that it's important to avoid the temptation to go straight black and white with these things. I think that it's important to acknowledge that it's a gray area, and you sort of have to take it case by case.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Especially in this day and age with like 10,000 genders, like there's no way you can have one rule that you apply to everybody. Otherwise, you'll just have men and women competing in the same thing, and fuck it. Like, we'll all just compete on the same track, which is not fair to women because they don't have the same advantages as a guy biologically with regards to training. That's why you don't generally have men and women fighting each other in UFC matches or boxing matches. That's why you generally don't have men and women playing on the same sports ever. They have their own dedicated leagues because that is more fair to female athletes, which makes sense to me unless a doctor or a scientist or someone wants to educate me in the comments and tell me that that's just archaic and wrong and stupid and we should be way past that. please, like, let me know.
I just think we all have to keep an open mind because we keep getting more information about this every day.
Nonetheless, I think it's a super interesting story.
I mean, I'm fascinated and I can't wait to watch this.
Yeah, I think it's a super compelling story. It's an interesting challenge as an actor. I mean, for Taapsee Pannu, I think that's a very, very interesting challenge, and hopefully people embrace it. There's a show called Sacred Games, and there was a woman, I think she was a woman. I'm pretty sure she was, I can't remember now if she was a woman or if she was born with both parts. Like, I can't remember exactly what the situation was. All I remember was it was an actress playing that role. And there were people who raised issues with that because they're like, oh, this should have been played by either a guy or a transgendered person or something like that. Like, why are you taking roles away from, it's like, but she's an actress. It's her job to act, and she did a freaking good job there. So I'm excited to see what Taapsee Pannu brings to the table here, how she portrays this character, how it all comes out, and hearing the perspective of this character, I think would be good for a lot of people. The unfortunate byproduct of this is, generally speaking, you're preaching to the choir, generally, because it's not that often you're gonna have someone who's like against this and then decide to watch this and then be persuaded to have a change of heart. I just don't think it's statistically likely to happen. It's good to get the message out there and try to normalize it and try to like get this heard, basically, get this story heard by more and more people. I think that's cool.
Well, I think even I have a lot to learn too, so I'm excited to watch this. And if you have opinions, please let us know in the comments because always trying to grow here.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
Why are you scared? Why are you scared?
I feel like we're gonna get canceled.
No.
It's difficult to have an opinion about these things.
Look, as far as I'm concerned, you're allowed to have an opinion, and I don't think one should get canceled for having an opinion. I think that we should all try to educate each other to the best of our abilities.
Exactly.
With patience and respect.
And empathy.
And empathy. The thing is, we're in an ever-changing world, and if you shame someone for having a thought or a feeling, they're not going to learn. They're just going to group up with other people and continue to have those feelings and thoughts and not change. Your best shot at changing the world is by respectfully disagreeing and trying to educate somebody as best as you can. And if they reject it, they reject it. You just gotta let it be, but you try your best. So those are my thoughts on it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this reaction, and do let us know your feelings in the comments below. Follow Carolina Sofia in the social media, and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell icon, all notifications. Vote this video up. I'm Jaby KOAY. This is
Carolina Sofia.
Peace out.